Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I would like to thank you all for contributing to this forum. I'm sure you will agree that these past 2 days have been rich in thought-provoking and energetic debate. And we have heard many different views at this forum, but all the contributions have highlighted that the prevailing form of globalization has not yet yielded benefits for everyone, and that significant changes are needed to build an inclusive and sustainable globalization. The panelists and participants made many suggestions, both on goals to be included in the post-2015 agenda and on the policies required to implement it. Significant attention was devoted to the need to reform global macroeconomic and financial governance so as to prevent renewed crises and to make financial flows support the real economy rather than feed speculative bubbles. Many participants stressed the need to strengthen the regulation of finance, including through a financial transaction tax. The case was made for a reform of the global financial architecture, particularly with a view to strengthening the representation of developing countries. Participants noted that while enhanced participation in the global economy had helped many economies make important strides in addressing development problems, countries continued to confront a range of challenges in international trade and investment. Rather than supporting developing country efforts to promote inclusive and sustainable development, several participants argued that international agreements, including those of the WTO and regional and bilateral trade and investment agreements, among others, were often hindering progress. They called for a restructuring and reform of international trade and investment agreements to ensure an equitable sharing of benefits among developed and developing countries, and to restore the national policy space of developing countries that some agreements have increasingly been closing, and to place limits on the market power of multinational corporations operating within their territories. Another important issue raised was that of climate change. Participants noted that the negative effects of climate change were likely to fall disproportionately on the most vulnerable populations. One discussant in particular noted the necessity of the post-2050 poverty reduction plan being also a post-2015 climate change mitigation plan, stating that if one goal was not achieved, the other was bound to fail as well. Many panelists emphasized the need to include food security in the post-2015 development agenda, highlighting the influence of free trade policies, pressure from large agricultural producers in the developed world, and the influence of finance on food commodity contracts as major impediments to the achievement of food security for all. These are only some of the issues raised in the lively discussions over the past 2 days. We must now think about how we can move this process forward and make sure that these views are heard. As a first step, we hope to compile summaries of all the sessions and send them as an input to the delegates of the post-2015 UN Development Agenda at the General Assembly in New York. In this way, the views expressed here can be fed into the process of formulating the new development goals. But moving this process forward and ensuring that these goals are supported by appropriate policies and institutions will require continued engagement and advocacy. And civil society has a crucial role to play in this context. With targeted campaigns, many civil society institutions have been able to galvanize public opinion, generate debate, and trigger policy responses. It is therefore my hope that civil society institutions will remain fully engaged in the design and implementation of the post-2015 development agenda. Some speakers have remarked that in the aftermath of a financial crisis, prevailing budgetary pressures, as well as tectonic shifts in the political landscape, the environment today may in some ways be less conducive to the creation of a new partnership for development than it was back in 2000. To me, this simply means that our arguments and our advocacy have to be even more solid and better targeted. In this context, allow me to also say a few words about the possible role of UNCTAD. Several of the concepts and policy recommendations developed in our analytical and research work, such as the need for greater policy space in trade and investment, or for a multilateral approach to exchange rate management, speak directly to many of the concerns raised here today. Given UNCTAD's innovative and ahead-of-the-curve thinking on trade and development issues, I believe we have important contributions to make to the post-2015 development agenda and to the new economic approaches needed to implement it. I also think that our universal membership, along with our partnership with civil society, put UNCTAD in a key position as a forum for inclusive debate. And we have heard the calls from participants and organizations at this symposium for UNCTAD to strengthen its research and advocacy work for development and prosperity for all. UNCTAD is one of the UN agencies that have led the way in promoting the engagement of civil society with its work. This public symposium is an example of our commitment. It is just a part of the ongoing dialogue on substantive issues between civil society organizations and UNCTAD. Given the benefits of these synergies, UNCTAD is committed to continuing the practice of the public symposium and dialogue with civil society. In closing, I would like to express my gratitude to all panelists, discussants, and moderators for sharing their expertise, and all of the participants for their engaging contributions. I would also like to express special appreciation to the governments of Austria, Indonesia, India, China, and the Friedrich Ebert Foundation for providing financial support. As there is no provision in the regular budget for the organization of this event, we must rely exclusively on the generosity of governments to make this exchange possible, and I would like to thank those who have contributed. My special gratitude also goes to the President of UNCTAD Trade and Development Board, His Excellency Ambassador Mohtar Tileberdi, and the Mission of Kazakhstan for hosting the reception for all participants yesterday evening. I also wish to thank the UNNGLS for their support of this forum and the students from the Webster University for their tireless work to ensure social media coverage of the event. You've been wonderful. I hope to welcome you all again at the next UNCTAD Public Symposium in 2014, and it should be a special one in the year of our 50th anniversary. Thank you all once again.